Thanks for completing yesterday's goal, 400 subscribes in new channel. Creepypasta rules. Today can we reach 600 subscribes? I know you can do it. Serious, people of Reddit who claim to have seen a mythical creature, such as fairies, elves, gnomes, etc. What is your story? Did not see anything, but every time I tell this story people say that was a fairy. This is the one and only inexplicable moment of my life. About 10 years ago I got home from school and threw my car keys on a leather ottoman in my man cave. Every day when I came home I would do this, throw keys on ottoman, turn around and go to the bathroom. When I returned from the bathroom, even though I saw my keys land on the ottoman, keys were gone. I was home alone. Maybe in the bathroom for 30 to 45 seconds. Looked all around the floor, no keys. Checked under the ottoman and couch, no keys. Lifted the ottoman off the ground and shook it over my head. No keys. At this point I convinced myself I imagined throwing my keys and I had for some reason put them on the bathroom counter. No keys in the bathroom. Turned back around. And the fucking keys are sitting right on the ottoman. There's no way. Recalling this incident gives me chills, and it is the only thing in my life that convinces me of the existence of the paranormal. So when I was a kid I got a huge kick out of hiding in various spots around our house and then going out and scaring my mom or my sister whenever they would walk past. The challenge was finding new spots that they wouldn't see coming, but that I knew they would be at. I wanted to get a good scare, but I didn't want to have to wait an eternity for someone to come by. This only happened once and it still scares me when I think about it. I had picked a spot in our attic on this day. I knew my mom would be coming up there because she was going to get out props for a church play that we kept up there. So I set up behind a stack of boxes and waited. About 5 or 6 minutes and I heard someone very faintly say, as if me being there was interesting and maybe unexpected. The sound came from almost directly behind me and I immediately froze. Then I felt breath on the back of my neck. Now I was raised on a farm and the number one rule when encountering something that you assume you have no control over, coyotes, lynx, snakes, and the occasional irritable cow, is to not make any sudden movements. Then you slowly remove yourself from the situation and create distance without provoking whatever you are faced with. So I sat there for about 20 seconds. Stock still, absolutely terrified. After that I slowly stood up and started to move away. I wasn't about to turn and look behind me. I got 2 steps and a hand clamped down on my right shoulder. I screamed, wrenched away and ran until I was out of the house. Once outside my mom and my sister came running to see why I was screaming. They had been outside with our dogs the whole time. My dad was at our other property almost 10 miles away. Sure, I could have imagined it. It never happened again. Nobody believed me then. My mom and dad both made multiple trips to the attic to show me nothing was up there. I don't know what it was, but it was something. My daughter and I regularly and reliably saw a hide behind from my kitchen window. This eventually led to us learning the truth about this Midwestern mythical creature. What we saw was 7 to 8 feet tall, bipedal, spindly legs, gaunt with protruding ribcage, no horns or protruding ears. They would lean out from behind a tree in the forest behind our house. If you moved about, it would pop back behind the tree. We never saw more than one at a time, but there seemed to be more than one, as height varied. We sometimes saw it multiple times a day. The behavior was always the same. It seemed wary of us, but if we stayed out of sight, it would lean out into view for a few seconds at a time. When we sent the dog out, it would run off into the forest after it, but never chased it into view, so that told us nothing. I viewed it through a rifle scope, and got a good long look at it silhouetted against the snow behind the trees. It was really creepy, like a Slender Man or something. I could determine height by going out and measuring the trees we saw it next to. I of course did not shoot it, since you should not shoot what you cannot identify, and the only large bipeds hereabouts are people, though nothing human is that tall, or narrow. We knew the local legends, and this matched the description and behavior. We dug out our trail camera, but solved the mystery before we got a chance to set it up. Sorry to disappoint folks, but we solved the mystery, as I'm sure many have before us. As winter sets in, the deer like to stand on their hind legs to eat the tips of pine tree branches. They are totes scared of people, and will always do it behind trees. But every so often one that is sick, starving, had twins or gave birth too late in the season, will be desperate. The desperate ones will lean out to get the untouched branches in view of the house, but if they sense movement, they duck away. A large deer with corvid wasting disease, standing on its hind legs is a bizarre, 8+ foot tall, skeletal-looking thing, with a protruding ribs and sunken ingot. I am sure I saw a ghost in my grandma's house when I was around 12. I was helping my cousins clean out a room my grandparents were going to turn into a guest room, and when my cousins left the room, I saw a man in the corner of the room. I don't remember being scared of him, but when my cousins came back in and I asked who the man was, they were confused. They probably just thought I was playing a joke on them, but I was sure I saw the man. I never told my parents or my grandparents about it, and I never saw the man again. I saw a small ape-like thing on a branch. It walked towards me, then turned and walked away. This was in the middle of Alberta. We stared at each other, and it sort of smiled at me. This really happened. And I was there for legit scientific research purposes, not Bigfoot, and you would generally trust me based on reputation. I have told many people over the years and am not ashamed about the story. I have never figured out what kind of animal it was or if the thing escaped from a private owner. It did look thin with thinning hair. When I was 6, back in the 90s, my dad and I were poking around an old Greek revival house that was for sale. It was abandoned but not in total disrepair. I think my dad was hoping to purchase the property and fix it up. I think it was just off the Stono River near Johns Island, South Carolina. You could see the marsh from the backyard. It was early summer and there was a ton of fragrant jasmine vines climbing the fence leading up to the house. In the humid heat you could smell it all over the property. That's important. Anyway, we were checking out the back garden when I heard a loud knocking sound coming from inside the house. It sounded like someone knocking on a door. I looked at my dad and he heard it too. He grabbed my hand and we went around the front of the house. As we went, the knocking got louder. My dad paused by the fence and asked me if I could smell the jasmine. I couldn't smell it and it was an arm's length away. I'm 6, so I'm properly freaked out at this point. I have no idea what's happening. He says he's going to go inside the house to make sure no one is trapped inside. He tells me to wait by the fence. By the time he went up to the front door, the knocking was unbearably loud. He pushed the door open and all I remember is this pure white light pouring from around my dad. It sounded like a train going by. I don't know what my dad did, but it stopped. Everything went quiet again. He came back, pale and just completely in shock, took me to the truck and we left. As we were pulling away I could smell the jasmine again. I asked him what it was. He said it wasn't human and that's that. We've never ever spoken about it again. I have no idea what we saw, but my best guess is a haint, or, Lucifer himself. I got nothing, lol. While up in the San Juans in Washington state off of Orca Island, I was drifting in a rowboat when a head and long slender neck rose up out of the water, maybe 8 to 10 from the boat. My initial reaction was, is that an eel? It had a face similar to a moray eel and a dark greenish skin but with red eyes. It rose several feet out of the water, paused and then opened and closed its mouth a few times like it was coming up for air. The moment I shifted in the boat to try and get a better look at it, it was like it was suddenly aware I was there and slid back under the water. I've spent a lot of time on the ocean and have never seen anything else remotely like it. About 15 years ago I was leading a week-long youth group backpacking trip in the mountains of Vermont. On the last of the trip, we were in an enclosed shelter, 4 walls, roof and a door, off the main trail. After dinner the kids, for whatever reason, decided that they have a sing-along, completely out of character for them, but whatever, we had a successful week. I set my digital camera to video and let it record the goofiness while they were singing Hakuna Matata and Weird Al's Albuquerque, all of it, and went to bed once they were done. Got off the trail the following day and set about cleaning my gear and wandering through all the photos and videos to put up my SmugMug site for the families to see. Going through the videos of the sing-along, I hit something I wasn't expecting. In the gap between songs was a deep, unnatural voice asking forcefully, "Do you want to die?" It was not there during the singing because there's no way in hell they would have launched right into the next song without commenting on it. Lots of goofiness singing and that bit of WTF in the gap between songs. For extra fun around 2 a.m., one of the leader's dog, normally the goofiest, dopiest dog ever, got mistaken for a pony on more than one occasion, stood up like he was gonna bite someone and started growling incessantly with the hairs on the back of his neck standing straight up. He would not calm down for anything and got a bit snappy when I tried to move him away from the door. In the same time frame, said door into the shelter kept slamming open and closed as well despite it being a calm, moonlit night with no clouds to be seen. I tied the door shut and the dog slowly calmed down. I didn't get a lot of sleep that night, even less when I dug into the videos post-trip. No clue what the fuck was out there, but something wasn't happy with a large group intruding into its space. Never had that or anything remotely like that happen again on any of my trips into the mountains. Not real elf but. When I was in 6th form I went on a school trip to Iceland. Imagine 12 city kids from a strict Catholic school on a minibus with a tour guide who starts talking about elves and how most Icelandic people believe in them. We all generally thought she was having us on and she was going to say she was joking, but our teachers shot us the look and we realized she was being serious. Fast forward a few hours and we arrive at a beautiful waterfall. I don't remember the full details, but she basically says there's an elf guarding the waterfall and you can see it in the ground formation. She was absolutely right. A huge elf embedded next to the waterfall as if placed there by magic. That opened our minds to other people's beliefs for sure. Fairy at my grandmother's house. I'm Irish, we generally believe in fairies, if not belief then acceptance of others who do. We even change building and planning permission and talk about it in government. No one should ever upset a fairy tree, a single tree in the middle of a field, usually hawthorn. I saw a fairy when I was 9 in my grandmother's garden. She had a hawthorn tree in the garden and I used to leave secret treats and gifts for the fairies there. One day I was laying on top of the shed under the tree looking up and saw a fairy dance across a branch and disappear into a crack in the tree. It was very fast and looked mostly like a dirty little street urchin with dirty clothes on and no shoes and short ratty hair. I tried many times to climb over and see where it went over the course of a few years. I got scared most days because it was too high and twice I fell off the shed, getting myself banned from climbing up there anymore. I remember it clearly still, but anyone I've told just brushes it off as my overactive kid imagination. I believe it was real. I legitimately saw what I thought was a Jersey Devil in Baltimore, MD. It was completely hairless, ran on 2 feet instead of 4, carried its front paws folded in front, was about 4 to 5 feet tall, very long hairless rat tail, looked like the Egyptian god Anubis. I was completely stunned. After about an hour of driving I started to piece together that the animal was a fox. It must have had a skin disease to make it hairless, and must have had very injured front paws to run on back legs. I googled fox with mange and that's pretty much what I saw. I have no doubt that while this is a good story, I saw a sick fox. However, the experience of seeing an anomalous animal in the wild absolutely blew my mind. Just think of how excited you'd feel to finally see Bigfoot. Such a shot of adrenaline, but that wasn't it in real life. I can Google hairless fox and that's what I saw. I don't exactly know what creature it was, but anyway, here is my story. If anyone knows what it was, let me know. When I was in the 5th grade we went on a trip with our school to this hostel at the edge of a forest. Me and the kids in my room, we did the usual thing of saying we saw something at the edge of the forest. One night we did it again and we had already gotten a bit paranoid and sometimes thought that we actually saw something, and on this night we suddenly all saw this pair of purple glowing dots at the edge of the forest. At first we thought it was probably just a reflection or something until those dots disappeared and reappeared about 10 meters to the right. When they reappeared we could visually make the outer edges of the creature's body, which looked somewhat human. The eyes then turned to the right and this second pair of purple eyes appeared. At this point we were really scared. It got worse when we realized those dots or probably eyes were looking at us. From our window to the forest where those creatures were standing it was like maybe 15 to 20 meters. We sat there looking at them for about 10 minutes until those creatures turned around and left. To this day I don't know what I saw at the edge of the forest and what they were doing so close to us. I was young and had fallen asleep in the car. I woke up to my parents frantic in the car but were parked in our driveway. My mom was worried about something in the field, if it had rabies. My dad saying he's going to slip into the house and get the shotgun. Anyways, in the field across, illuminated by snow and moon, was this dog thing. But short hair like a poodle. It was enormous. Its head would come up to the top of our Buick. Only instead of a head, was a ball. Like it was stuck in a metal ball. It was thrashing about, so maybe it was? However, no houses in the area had a dog of that size/look. We ended up getting inside. My mom called the non-emergency police line. My dad watched from the balcony. It thrashed and wiggled into the woods and the cops did a quick sweep but nothing.